was born, this is Jeff, born in Savannah, Tennessee, Hardin County, an 8th generation descendant of the county's founder. He's a graduate of Austin Peay State University, BS in English, and the University of Alabama, MFA in poetry. He is the author of 4 chapbooks. I'm not going to read those out. And, well, I mean, let's see. He received the Donald Justice Poetry Prize. There's a lot in here. Hold on. His latest book is Coming into an Inheritance, and that'll be on sale tonight. Close to 1,000 of his poems have appeared in such journals as the Southern Review, North American Review, the Hudson Review, the Gettysburg Review. I mean, you name it, right? Southern Poetry Review. There's a lot more in there. I'm just going to read some of them. His poems have been nominated for the Pushcart Prize multiple times and have been featured on Poetry Daily, Verse Daily, the Writer's Almanac. He's now a professor of English at Columbia State Community College and is retiring this year after 32 years. And he serves as an editor for the online journal One. Jeff, I think, is probably the poet laureate of Columbia. That's what I always call him anyway. And his friend Donovan McAbee, also very erudite. Very, very erudite, but listen to this. Donovan McAbee is a poet, songwriter, and essayist. His work has appeared in the New York Times, Time Magazine, the Hudson Review, the Sun Magazine, Poetry London, and a variety of other places. He grew up in a small town in South Carolina in the foothills of the Blue Ridge Mountains. He holds a Master of Divinity degree. Isn't that great? A Master of Divinity.
It's like Star Wars.
From Princeton Theological Seminary and a PhD in creative writing and contemporary poetry from the University of St. Andrews in Scotland. He lives in Nashville, Tennessee with his wife and their 2 children and works as professor of religion and the arts at Belmont University. His poetry collection, Holy the Body, was published by Texas Review Press in March 2026, and that's available for purchase tonight too, and was chosen by Garden and Gun as one of 2026 most anticipated books. So, I mean, these guys are going to be great. I can't wait. I'm going to sit down now. And Jeff, I guess you'll start.
Awesome.
Or Donovan. I don't really
What do you
care.
want? What do you want? I don't care. It's your hometown. Go ahead. Okay. Probably.
Well, get me out of the way so Jeff can end the show.
Oh, come on.
I know. I'm 46 years old, and this is my debut poetry collection. And when my wife and I were having kids a number of years ago, she was 33, I think we had our last child, but we had several friends who were 35 or 36. And do you know what they call a pregnancy when the woman is 35 or 36? Do you know the phrase? It's horrible. Geriatric pregnancy. Yeah. And so we would laugh with our 35-year-old friends that they have a geriatric pregnancy. I'm calling this my geriatric debut collection because that's what it feels like. William Stafford, I did not know that. That's good. So there's time. Is that what you're saying? There's time. I didn't even that number. Nearly 1,000 poems published, Jeff. That's, oh my gosh.
Well, he writes one every day.
Well, yes. There's that thing called discipline that I need more of in a number of areas of my life. But thank you, Jeff, for having me down here, and Melinda for hosting. It's wonderful to be here. I'm on my 2nd coffee since I got here earlier today. I love this place. Yeah. So I grew up in a small town in the upstate of South Carolina, in the foothills of the mountains, and I grew up a member of the tribe known as Southern Baptists. Maybe you've heard of us.
Yes.
That's not the sort of community with which I still worship, but as a Southern Baptist, we had these wonderful characters who would come through town called evangelists. And usually the shtick is they try to save you from hell scare you out of hell by scaring the hell out of you. That's kind of how I think of the evangelist modus operandi. But we had a guy come through when I was a kid a couple of times who had figured out that not only are you in danger of hell, but you're in danger of hell because rock and roll music is taking you there. And he had discovered that if you played the music backwards, you could hear all of these messages. So this poem kind of grows out of that experience. If you sort of experiences brought together in one poem. It's called Crusade Against Rock. The traveling evangelist with the permed mullet played Another One Bites the Dust, slowed down, in reverse for our congregation. If we listened closely, he insisted we could hear Freddie Mercury, who sounded now like Darth Vader, testifying to us all, "It's fun to smoke marijuana. It's fun to smoke marijuana." We heard it nearly plain as day. The Lord isn't the only one who works in mysterious ways. The remedy must outdo the poison, the evangelist told us. The next night, I gathered up my own little stack of songs, said goodbye to F You Don't Take It Personal, Adios Easy Does It, So Long Straight Outta Compton. The liner notes turned black beneath the melting plastic. The fumes of our youth group's burnt offering drifted on the wind. Maybe this was what God wanted. But even now, my heart aches to think about the moment the flames took hold of Bob Marley's legend. His head cocked, his eyes knowing, and all those dreads suddenly on fire. So, yes. So religion's definitely a part of my life and my work. I've served as a minister at churches before. God help the people who existed under my ministry. We had a good time. But, well, now I'm a professor, so I still am in the business of attempting to help people form themselves into something better and more lovely, hopefully. But the day I graduated, I went to Baylor out in Texas, which is a good Baptist school. And the day I graduated, we found out my mother had cancer. And she had just moved to New York City or Long Island, was working in the city, and I was getting ready to go to Princeton Theological Seminary. So I moved up there. And my experience at seminary, a lot of people before you go to seminary will tell you it's going to be the dark night of the soul, you know. And it was a dark night of my soul, but it wasn't because of the theology classes I was in, but rather the fact that my mother had this terminal diagnosis of cancer hanging over her head. So she lived on Long Island, I lived in New Jersey. I would get to see her and help take care of her at some of those moments that were hard. But then that's when poetry for me became a more serious enterprise. Before that I had written in high school and college really terrible things, really, really bad things. Just hackneyed metaphors, you know. But in this moment of grief and of depression, I found myself turning to literature, and poetry especially became a language that meant a lot to me. This poem starts out in Nashville and ends up at a location in St. Andrews, but you don't really need to know that, but maybe it'll help give you a little bit of clarity. It's called Sightings. Shortly after her death, Mother Teresa appeared in a cinnamon bun in Nashville, Tennessee. She looked serious, perturbed even, as though this epiphany were an inconvenience. Once, in the 90s, when statues of the Virgin were crying all over Ireland, one in Donegal did not get the memo. A sign hung around its neck announcing, "This Holy Mother out of order." I found myself 2 years after Mom died in the second pew from the front in a dark, empty chapel. I looked up at the 6-foot-tall wooden Jesus, votive candles at his feet, and I could see a tear falling over and over down his right cheek, a trick of light and shadow, but somehow in that moment I knew they were for me, those tears. My brothers beat the crap out of me when I was growing up. I don't know if that was... Anyone here the youngest? Yes, exactly. Maybe they meant it as love. I didn't always feel it as love. But But if your older brother or sibling says something nice to you, it really stuck. And this poem is about something my older brother said that was nice to me, probably in the midst of beating me up. It's called Playing Army. I died better than anybody. My older brother said so. He shot me from around the corner of the house. Pow, pow, pow. My body arched, floating back towards the earth, my rifle rolling up through the air. They all stood agape to witness such fluid grace. I was so damn good, every kid on the block wanted to shoot me. It's true, it's true. South Carolina in the 80s was a rough place. So this next poem is, most of my poems tend to be kind of shorter. This poem is in short sections, but it's rather long, and it's the hardest, it's the most difficult poem I've ever written, and it's still difficult to read. It's about my mom and her life. She died at the age of 49. It's a melanoma that was preventable. It was a doctor's mistake that kept it from being caught soon enough. But her life kind of had a lot of other tragedies to it. And in this poem, I wanted to honor her story and gesture towards the tenacity of her spirit as I saw her as her son. She died when I was 25, so it's a number of years ago now. But the third section, it's divided into 9 sections, each of which is a different time stamp. So I'll read the time stamp, usually a year, then that section, time stamp another section. And I will just say that the third section makes reference to the experience of sexual assault. So if that's something that you need to sort of just check out for a little while, I wanted to give you forewarning for that. Mama's Body, 2004. The nurses remove the IV. Take the tube from your nose. Move the bed to the center of the room so we can circle and pray. Your spirit, because I believe on this day in such a thing, has abandoned its husk, lifted from the room or walked out the door. The marriage of body and breath broken. Mama, not mama, mama, my first home. 1960. You woke to the sound of a vase toppling off an end table. Ran down the hallway to the door of the living room where your mama lay on the floor. Your daddy standing above her calling her names you were told not to repeat. You ran to your room like you always did. Years later, you tell me how you'd cover your body in the sheets, pull the blanket over your head, close your eyes and pray to disappear, that the mattress might swallow you like the ocean. 1966. Some things better left unsaid. So you thought for 2.5 decades, while those secrets nursed dreams that crawled through your nights. How after supper your friend's dad would play strip poker with you and her at the dining room table when you were 11. How he'd take you later from the bed where you slept. Your friend's mom always in the kitchen washing up. 1977. You at 22 sit on the couch, rubbing your belly. You hold the little yellow dress with white frills that Grandma gave you. 20 weeks along, the ultrasound's silent scan. Daddy takes you to the hospital where the doctor delivers the stillborn, carries it away. 2 years later, you put the yellow dress on me so you could imagine how beautiful your little girl might have been. 1985. I nuzzle into you on the couch, rest in the crook your legs make as you lie on your side. You stroke my curly hair, and I go to sleep while you and Daddy watch TV. You carry me then down the hallway to my bedroom, sing an ocean lullaby, tuck me in snug as a bug for the night. 1993. You reach out for me while we drive down 26. Put your hand on my knee like you've always done. I draw back, refuse touch. You reach out with your words to ask about my week, to find out if there's some girl who's caught my eye. You make this 350-mile round trip twice every other weekend, more often when I ask you to, just to see me. After the divorce, I fortify myself. Won't let you touch me. Won't let Dad touch me. Don't want to let anyone touch me ever again. 2001. Your arm bandaged to keep edema from settling in. You retch into the plastic pail the nurse gave you, a reaction to the anesthesia. You apologize again for the inconvenience this has caused me as I look at the wound under your arm where the surgeon removed the lymph nodes. I take you next morning back to the house to wait for pathology to give us the verdict. Not breast cancer, as everyone has told us, but melanoma. That word, melanoma, we hear. Melanoma, spread through. Melanoma, every word, melanoma. We speak melanoma. Those three, melanoma, last, melanoma, years. This is the next to last section. Years later. A need is never sufficient for its own fulfillment, or perhaps therein resides a miracle worth pondering. An unloved woman learned to love. You made water from thirst, bread from hunger. Date uncertain. There must have been moments when it felt like yours, when it didn't belong to fear or pain or to a man or a child. Times when your long dark hair brushed your shoulders on a windy day, when the sun warmed your skin and you felt the glory of this other belonging. Now a poem called Grief. I've woken in strange places, face down on church pews and sidewalks, covered with dew in the grass of the graveyard, considered how the ocean washes the rocks below the cliff under moonlight. Those last memories still wound. The uncomfortable recliner I made a bed of in the hospital room, rubbing lotion on your swollen feet, whispering what I hoped you could hear. I love you, and it's okay when you need to leave. Whew! Told you, poetry can be a downer sometimes. I think it's, for me, poetry, it can express our joys and our sorrows and those times and places when the two meet, you know? When I think back to my mother's death, she was in the hospital room for 19 days the last time. And I tell you what, we knew she was dying, but my God, we had a lot of laughter in that room too, you know? I want to lighten it for just a second. There's a place that I feel like needs more attention, and sometimes I realize how much I've failed as a father. The failure father poems are in the next collection. I don't have this one. But I just preached one of my niece's weddings back in, hopefully her only wedding. I mean, it's wedding singular. One of my niece's wedding back home, and we met up with one of my other brothers in Hendersonville, North Carolina on our way back, and we stopped at a restaurant that my 6-year-old daughter had never been to yet. And it's my wife's fault, Megan, saying that into the camera. But it's a restaurant called the Waffle House that my 6-year-old had never been to. I grew up on the Waffle House, as you can tell, you know? This poem's called Waffle House, so it's probably for the better that my daughter has one parent saying, "We will not eat at the Waffle House," and one who says, "Maybe when Mama goes out of town in a couple of weeks, we'll go." Waffle House love. Nothing's open here at 2 a.m. except the Waffle House on the edge of town. Cigarette smoke wrapped in fried egg smell smacks me in the face as I pull open the glass door. I take a booth and order sweet iced tea. Maybe that's her getting out of that blue Mustang with a cherub's smile and a short black skirt, but no, there's someone else with her. It's 20 past, but I guess I'll stay. We'll laugh one day when we tell our kids that we met in the middle of the night at a Waffle House next to the interstate. In the True Love chat room, I just knew that Meg Ham 1986 was the girl for me. The way you know the earth is round, that Jesus saves, and that $2 bills will one day be worth more than $2. So you keep them. There we are.
Thank
Whew.
you.
Oh, you're welcome. Waffle House. Showing a little love for the Waffle House there. There's a poem. Where are we on time? I forgot to look. Are we good?
We're good.
All right.
Don't worry about it.
So 25. Oh, my dad passed 4 years ago in June, so it's coming up on the 4th anniversary of his passing. But 10 years ago, he was here just as we had 10 years ago in March, we just found out that my wife was pregnant with our first child. She was under 35, so it was not a geriatric pregnancy. That's just for the record. But we were so excited. We had just found out we were going to enlarge our family, and my dad came it was spring break for me at Belmont, and Sunday lunch, I reach across to hold my wife's hand, reach for my dad's to say the prayer, and he is slumped over the table. And I shake him, and I realize he is not there, and I take him to the floor, perform CPR. It's a crazy experience. He coded 5 times that day. And if any of you are in the medical profession, like, if you code 5 times, you don't come back. And if you do, you're not cognitively intact. Miraculously, he did. It's a longer story. But this poem grows out of that experience. It's got a lot of medical language and drug names here that are part of that experience. But this poem is called Breath for Dad. All of a sudden, you slumped out of life. Those bluest of eyes staring out to where form collapses. Unaware in your awareness of the sudden blows back against the floor, the cracking of sternum beneath my hands, attempting to call you back from wherever it was you were wandering off to, forcing air into your lungs, the hum, high-pitched squeal, the call to clear, electricity lifting you for a moment near resurrection. I hold your hand in the ER as you die again and again and again and again. Epinephrine, norepinephrine, vasopressin, amiodarone, propofol, fentanyl, a dozen more dripping, portacath in your neck, femoral line, IVs snaked into both your arms, swan gans, fish hooked through the heart's chambers, the plastic tube in your lungs jitters each breath. I sit beside your bed, hoping God might be bothered enough this time to answer a prayer. So I make a living. We all have to make a living somehow, and I make a living as a religion professor. I mean, we all do nefarious things for money, right? True. But growing up, there was always this: do you believe in God? How do you prove the existence of God? This sort of thing. And I don't usually like to think about God that way, because God doesn't. To me, God seems kind of different than creation, the created order, So, but being a fair-minded academic, or at least pretending to be one by day, I've written 2 poems about the existence of God, and they're twin poems. The first one is called Anecdotal Evidence for the Existence of God. Orgasms. I always let it sit uncomfortably there. Cotton candy, chocolate-covered almonds, coffee, river stones. That time after praying when I would have doubted my own existence before I would have doubted God's. Tortoises, ice cream, the ocean. And then being fair-minded, this is the twin poem, anecdotal evidence against the existence of God. The poor design and frequent malfunctioning of the prostate. I usually pause there too for some of the men to sit uncomfortably. Licorice, World War II, dysentery, all those times after praying when I went away empty. Mosquitoes, standardized tests, every square inch of Orlando, Florida. It's true. It's true. So I think I've got 2.5 more for you. St. Francis of Assisi supposedly called his body brother ass. I don't know if that's true or not, and the story's so good I don't want to find out that it's not, so I just don't look it up, Something I would never tell my students to do, but I'm just going to enjoy the sweet lie. And the older I get, the more I feel that way about my body. It's just brother ass, kick this thing up the hill. But this is the title poem for the collection, Holy the Body. I've thought so little of you that now you seek your revenge in the grinding of kneecaps, the tightening of hamstrings, loss of elasticity, the skin. So long neglected, you weren't even an afterthought. I apologize each morning with a handful of pills. Oh, scarred flesh of me in the mirror as I turn the page on another decade. I bless the stretch marks on my stomach, evidence of those dead years when food was my one friend. I bless the crow's feet at the corners of my eyes, proof of days spent under the sun. I bless the gray in my beard, reminder that sometimes, despite ourselves, wisdom appears. I bless our breaking down, dear body. Pray the process is slow, that when time confronts us with its choices, you'll teach me when to hold on, when to let go. After the fact, I know you by the space you leave empty. I draw lines in the air where the roof used to be. I wait for you, Lord, like a mailbox for a letter. The grass still wonders how the ground got there. And here's the last poem I'll read for you tonight before Jeff comes up and brings it home with his new collection. It's called, so one of the other things is poets, we get so little attention and money for what we do that we try to make up for it in pretension. It's just, we've all got to have something we've earned. And one of the ways that poets demonstrate our pretension is that we use words from dead languages, even when good old-fashioned English words would do. And so this poem is called Corpus. Could have called it body, but no, let's go for the Greek. It's corpus. So this will be my last poem read for you tonight. Corpus. When God is silent late at night, and I'm watching the shadows the moon makes against the walls, I wish sometimes for certainty to know God like the fetal pig I dissected in high school. Its legs tied back with twine on an aluminum tray. Flesh obedient to the scalpel as I separated skin from meat, meat from bone, living silence from the silence of death. But I lie awake and listen instead to the wind-rustled leaves of the poplar, to the quiet breaths my wife makes as she lies here sleeping, and I pray or think to myself, which in these moments feels like prayer. Oh, this is enough. This is more than enough. Thank you very much.
Well, this is my new book. It's called Coming Into an Inheritance.
Woo.
I didn't know how I felt about my own photos on the cover. My first impression was like, oh, okay, I like to hide behind everything, so all of a sudden my photos were on this. So like 21-year-old Jeff and probably like 48-year-old Jeff. But anyway,
They're good photos.
yeah,
Yes.
it's a really. I always wanted to book this size. Always,
Yes.
I just love that size. And all of the poems in this book are 5 3-line stanzas. And sometimes I'll talk about different strategies for writing poems. Narrative poems, meter. I wrote a book of sonnets. It's different styles of poetry. This one is a little bit more along the lines of what I would call juxtaposition, meaning that each stanza is kind of its own thing, and then it switches gears and it's about something else and something else. Hopefully, they all kind of hold together. Now, whether that happens or not, I don't know. The book's in 4 sections. First one's called Assembling Many Voices. The second section is called Another Language. The third section is Toward an Answering Day. And then the fourth section, Coming into an Inheritance. As I've told people, the title, I always say, I have a book out, or a book that's coming out, Coming into an Inheritance. Oh, I don't mean this kind, I mean this kind. And I tried, I had to write the, what do you call it, the book description,
Oh, yes.
right? I hate doing those things. I'm not giving it over to AI.
Synopsis.
Yeah, and so I was trying to figure out, what's the logic of moving through this book? And so I got to thinking about how, by imagining voices, not our own, so the first section is assembling many voices. By imagining voices not our own, we might find ourselves called to another language. So that's the second section, another language. But all of the titles in that section, most of the titles, are titles like a word that means the joy of being wrong. A word that means, so there's a stem. They all begin with that, like a word that means, because there are all these words that we don't have words for that. My 6th book is called A Clearing Space in the Middle of Being. That comes from a German word that means a clearing space in being. Well, we don't have an idea for that. That's such a cool idea, right? A clearing space. And I know why it would appeal to me, because I grew up next to 2,000 acres of land that friends of ours had. And so I'd be wandering around the woods and occasionally just come out into an open, little space, right? Which to me became a preview of eternity. Anyway, by imagining voices not our own, we might find ourselves called to another language, one aware of its omissions, one able to imagine towards some farther day, when that hoped for promised inheritance. We might call it fellowship or awe or intimacy. We'll find that that's abounding everywhere within reach. So it's assembling many voices. So the first poem, I'm going to read the first poem. I'll read maybe 2 poems from each section. I might read a third from one of the sections. The good thing about these is they're all short. 15 lines, we're in, we're out.
I like that.
Taking on other voices. That some will take on voices, imagining lives not their own, in times they never knew, must mean a tenderness still moves within the world. Trout streams ride twists and turns, then circle back, a logic whose biting cold a man can stand in, far from agendas, pogroms, polemics, affairs of state. What is a day anyway? I like the case Issa makes, describing himself as so-so. A cardinal hopping higher up the limbs suggests I'm less than that. Let's get down in the weeds where crickets live. Let's call it delight we even exist. Let's let the weight of who we think we are be caught up and cleansed. This reach for meaning means the mind is never satisfied, or new proofs will soon appear, or there's so much manifest a single mind cannot keep up. Now, almost all of this book is 16 to 26 or 27 years old. 26 years old. Eventually, one day, I'll reach all the poems I wrote after 2010, but I'm still like catching up to things that were really old. In fact, this is the oldest poem in the book, written in the year 2000, probably here at Buckhead. I remain unconvinced. Friends listening in may find me speaking to the void, a daily habit, for how else know the debt I owe for having lived? Such an intoxicant, 1,000 windows. I'm fond of saying these words I seek are already posthumous. You on your side, me on mine, but perhaps we're blind and crawl toward touching some middle place. I remain unconvinced that moonlight isn't fragrant. I remain unconvinced that Dickinson's letters weren't meant for me. For now and then I certainly received them. That first poet who equated blood with ink forgot that one is slow to dry and the other quick to spread beyond its boundaries. And both stain, both blossom, both redeem. Some say we are exiles, wandering toward a place remote and possibly non-existent. But I say there's a word or two we found, born from between us, and we are not empty. I sent that poem out for years trying to get it published, and never did. So this is section 2, another language. And I realized, well, let me give you like some of the titles in this section. A word that means how each moment is both vehicle and tenor. A word that means how each moment offers a sermon. A word that means what we give our minds to. A word that means the silence between one word joined to another. Anyway, a word that means how theme has many directions. It's like that's probably the title that has the most to do with the whole book. But the poem I'm going to read, or one of the poems I read from this section, is called "A Few Words Left Behind." So it doesn't have that stem of a title. And it's a poem I found. My journals are full of poems that I never put titles on. And I found this one at one time. I think I'd written it in 2008. And I suddenly read the poem and I was like, I actually kind of like this. I have no idea. I finally found a title. A Few Words Left Behind, which I literally had done. I'd left them behind. And that's how the title came about. A Few Words Left Behind. I've no desire to use a different voice with you than with a white oak sapling, moss I walk upon, or creek stones. Even a falling leaf I take as confidant. When bewilderment descends, I give up searching for my hidden name, the one a willow flings into grass. I turn back toward the fence road, its 6 or 7 posts. Imagine a language pieced together from archaic words we thought we left behind. I could spend all evening staring at 2 trees at the far end of this snow-soaked field. Our people, years ago, would plant an apple tree yards from the house to draw the bugs away. A lesson is there for those who wish to keep life's sweetnesses too near. The cold's moved in to cancel what I've stored away. Will I make the spring? It's envy I have but also love for how the grasshopper gets to fling itself away. And this one's titled "A Word That Means How Little Is Accounted For." In fact, on the cover there, I was asked to take little photos of my journals, where I'd written some of the poems. And so there are words on the cover you can see. And at the very top of it is the first line of this, although part of it's cut off. But a word that means how little is accounted for. Thinking of the moments just after Cain slew Abel. Thinking of the blood, remittance for nothing. Thinking if I'd been there, which face I would be. Easy to think I know the next choice I'll make. To wade into water or to skip a rock across it. But this world proves only how little I've accounted for. Late changing leaves let loose in a lack of wind. An easy biography. And spaces between barn walls look out on eternity when I press my face close. We'll scoff at a man climbing a ladder to touch the moon. Then tell me why we linger with the story of Narcissus bent toward his own face. I guess I was told so often as a child to dump the evening scraps out back that now it's easy to think so little of tossing out parts of myself. And this is the second oldest poem in the book, also written in the year 2000. And this is in the third section, toward an answering day. As the day before, so the day after. One song can sometimes last all day. Not one note decaying, just pure purpose and presence. And then there was yesterday. It's now empty rooms. Life's done with so many of us, gone on to visit others. We sense how small our bodies really are. No longer do we pitch ourselves from couch to floor. Y'all remember doing that as kids?
Yeah.
As kids, we knew that climbing took us never far enough. A part of us kept going and can't be summoned back. How often, without knowing, have we been another's still life? For some, the future departs even before it gets here, as though a page were missing, key image or word, and a life were meant to study what it moves along without. As a child, a field nearby was world enough for me. A man, sneezing, sent chickens toward the barn. Life was a leaning down fence post, 2 or 3 nails too deep to get hold of. And I'm going to read a third poem from that section, Reminders of a Passing Hour. Sycamores overlooking the river tell the years, though no one listens but the twigs trailing past and the prayers of the leaves that no longer lift. One painting on a wall can calm a stormy night. David, holding stones, needs only the one. The sky full of snowflakes can't cover Thoreau's tracks. I don't know why I'm pleased by that line. It's such a dumb line. An hour passing reminds me of how the hours were full of fondness, for how the feed barrel's corn could heal itself after my hands dug deep. If I thought I knew what the mind wants to know, I'd be that scrap of paper in the fence row, testing the edge of the woods the map has yet to reach. I hope all these guesses have mercy at their core. If I haven't been gentle, then nothing's been true. Though I never ate manna, I'm nourished the same. And this is called wrens hopping up the dogwood limbs. I'm sure today had other plans, but I'm still here. Between me and the cattails, a race. Who'll grow taller? Who looks more ridiculous, leaning in wind? Come fall, I'll set up residence at the windowsill and be an old man for a season. Just me and oblivion and afternoon naps where I'm a poem of a single word. Given a chance, what would I do? Yes, what would I do? I'd stretch out in the creek and be a stone gone smooth. I'd climb up the spider's web to catch the morning light. Distraction, distraction, it's all distraction. Except when wrens start popping up the dogwood limbs. They're dancing. I know. So why not join their call? Imagine narcissus bulbs one day growing into stalks of corn. What would a nation be then, late in a barren world, if self-love turned into listening toward others? And then the last poem in the book is called Point of Origin. I don't know, it's kind of a weird thought I had. I always think about like how my poems or my books start and how they end, and like a conversation between the poems. And I don't know, the poem that's next to it is called Benediction. That would have been a logical kind of choice as the last poem in the book. But I thought it would be kind of interesting, maybe just to end on the word, on the idea of origin as the end. Point of origin. In the coolness after rain passes through, the sky to the west is a shade of purple never seen before. So what if I exaggerate? I do so out of reckless awe. From the first note, the harp lives in denouement. One's life lived before seems only rising action. The flute makes an interlude between two breaths. My own point of origin involved a wheelbarrow full of rocks wheeled out past the barn's bent shadow. Sometimes, though, I knelt where a doe had stood. Home from school, I followed Papaw from woodshed to hog trough, to feed barrel, to woods trail. Evenings on the porch, we sat barefooted, sang to the stars. I figure whatever fortune I had was as much as I could bear. I lay on pine needles, I sampled wild plums, cast here and there, I held on tight to the bones of the wind. We were taping that, so